Okay, I'll start my presentation. Okay, welcome to UNIMAP. Okay, so in our visual form. Okay, I'm currently a lecturer with the University Malaysia Perlis. Okay, I'm the senior lecturer at the Institute of Engineering Mathematics, or we just use it as Institute Matematik Kejuruteraan, Fakulti Sains Gunaan dan Kemanusiaan. And my education background, I earned my PhD in Statistics from UUM in 2017. And before that, I earned my Master of Science in Decision Science from UUM in 2005. And I finished my Bachelor of Arts in Statistics from Michigan State University, East Lansing, USA in 1997. And prior to that, I finished my Diploma in Statistics from ITM Shah Alam. Okay. And for your information, my research interest is in the what we call discriminant analysis. Okay, sorry for that. Discriminant analysis is one of the area under the multivariate statistics. And for the discriminant analysis, I focus particularly on the classification problems, and for the classification problems, I do also focusing on the feature selection, or the bigger umbrella for feature selection is what we call the dimension reduction. Okay, and the third one is the statistical pattern recognition, which is closely related to the classification problem. And finally, my focus of my research also is in the multi-level data fusion. Okay. And for today's what we call webinar, this will be my outline for my today's webinar. The first, I will be touching on the definition. Second will be the expectation towards you as a student of a master or PhD degree, as well as if you are doing your proposal defense or your what we call Voce. Okay. And the third one is be ready with your knapsack, meeting the expectation from your examiner and supervisor. The fourth one will be some requirements for the Viva as well as the proposal defense. And the fifth one will be get to know your battlefield. That would be your Viva room and the audience of your Viva later. And what will be your role? Okay, so that will be on what is my role in precise. Okay, and I will be sharing also some of the tips that will be very good for you to take note for your Viva before, during, and after your Viva, or as well as the proposal defense. And the eighth one will be the online proposal defense and Viva Voce. Okay, what will be the things that you need to look at. And finally, I'll be sharing with you some of the vacancies on the graduate research assistant that we have currently empty in our faculty. And finally, the postgraduate opportunities in UNIMAP. Okay, particularly in the IMK as well as the faculty. Okay. Now, if you can reflect back when you first register in your what we call your study, be it the master or PhD. Okay, you have your what we call your aim. Okay, to finish your master and PhD in some certain what we call certain expected time period, or in certain expected what we call research area, with the what we call the chosen what we call supervisor that you choose at the beginning of your process. Okay, so when you have what we call decide, okay, when you have made your decision to further your study, okay, these will be the things that you must encounter towards the end of your study. That will be the proposal defense as well as the Viva. Okay, so when we are talking about the proposal defense as well as the Viva, and we know by what we call the proposal defense is the prerequisite before you can even have your Viva. So I think more or less the definition of doing your Viva or your proposal defense is more or less the same. Okay, so this definition from one hand is actually applied for your proposal defense as well. So what is actually when you say surviving in Viva? Okay, surviving the Viva depends fundamentally on the preparation and students' ability to demystifying the examination procedure. So you can see the words fundamentally on preparation and students' ability. Okay, so it's you. Okay, nowhere in the sentence said about your supervisor. Okay, so along the way, the process you pursue your study, okay, it's you that have the responsibility to what we call fulfill this particular what we call the proposal, defense, and survivor. Okay, so it all depends on you and how you bring about your proposal, defense, and viva in such a way that you clarify everything, you simplify everything, no matter how difficult your PhD or your master is, everything seems very simple when you present them to your examiner. Okay, so again, remember that this is your responsibility and of course with the help of your supervisor. Now, let us look at the function, your function as a student. Okay, as a student, I think everyone would have the experience before. Even me, I think everyone has the experience. Okay, have you had an experience telling a story and everyone listened to you excitingly? I think everyone experienced this, especially when you are talking to your, to a group of younger people. Okay, imagine when you tell them a story, you can tell them a difficult story become a very simple story for them to easily understand the whole story, the motivation of the story, the problem in the story, okay, the key person in the story, the ending of the story. You can tell them in precise way, in simple way, so that at the end of the what we call the storytelling, everyone is happy and everyone is what we call understood with what you have told them. Okay, so this particular what we call this kind of experience is actually I could say similar to what you are going to face during your viva as well as your proposal defense. Okay, the difference is just in the content. Okay, the content that will be reflecting your chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4, chapter 5, and so on, depending which situation that you are having. Okay, so I will go back to this particular what we call analogy of what we call storytelling with the viva and the proposal defense. Okay, now of course, when you are about to start your what we call proposal defense and your viva, I think everyone will experience this time, this moment. Okay? Even me, before I start this webinar, I feel all the butterfly in my stomach and everything. Okay, so it is something normal. Okay, if you don't have that, I think you will be that will be a bit abnormal to you. I think for those average people, before we can have before we begin our presentation, we will still have the nervousness in you. Okay, how you can turn your nervousness to confidence? It is very important where you can control yourself in such a way that how nervous you are at the end of the day before you step into the viva room or the proposal defense room, you can get away the nervousness and change that into a confident feeling. Okay, so it is very important when you can do that. Okay, you will let your audience to get the feeling that you are ready to begin your paper. Okay, so because when you are about to present your proposal defense and especially your viva, you're about to present the significant thing about the thesis that you are writing. Okay, so this particular what we call feelings is something that everyone should try to control and try to change a little bit before we can even start our what we call presentation. Okay, and of course, in order for you to change from the nervousness to confidence, it requires your what we call preparation on the proposal as well as your thesis. Okay, so let us go to the definition of Viva, Voce, and proposal defense. Okay, so I'll just start with the proposal defense. What is proposal defense? The purpose of the proposal defense is to assure that your plan of researching your proposed research question is complete and whole academic merits. Okay, so this is the key point. Proposed research question is complete and it holds the academic merits. A student work closely with their supervisory committee in determining the composition of the dissertation proposal and in writing the proposal. So when you have to defend your proposal defense, what do we expect from you is just the three main component of your proposal. That will be the chapter 1, chapter 2, and chapter 3. Chapter 1, basically, the focus point will be on your research gap. Okay, the moment you encounter or you what we call you get your research gap, okay, with the support of the previous literature review, okay, when from the research gap you will get your research objective. Okay, so this is where the transition whereby you require your literature review to find your research gap. Once you got your research gap, that is where you will what we call come up with your research objective. You can never have your research objective without getting to know what is your research gap. If you have that in you, I think it will be something what we call a research objective proposed to you by somebody else. Okay, what we call a true research is actually a research gap. What we call a research gap, finding the research gap on your own, and then from that particular research gap, you are going to what we call find the correct research objective that meet your research gap. And then from that particular research gap, for proposal defense, you are about to propose what would be the suitable, what we call research methodology that can answer your research objective. So that will be the basic idea for proposal defense. Okay, as in Viva Voce, okay, Viva Voce means by or with the living voice, by word of mouth. It is an examination where you will give a verbal defense of your thesis. Okay, so in this case, you have your thesis with you, and your next function is to present your thesis in such a way you present them verbally. Okay, so verbally means that you begin with the first chapter, second chapter, research methodology, analysis and result, and then finally your conclusion. Okay, so that will be the content of your Viva Voce. It means that everything, the context of your thesis, the whole thesis will be presented verbally. Okay, simply, okay, you should think as it is as a verbal counterpart to your written thesis. Your thesis, okay, demonstrate your skill at presenting your research, okay, but your Viva will demonstrate your ability to participate in academic discussion with your research colleague. So means that here your main what we call main audience will be your examiner. So that will be the difference between your Viva Voce and what we call proposal defense. Okay, there is one question. Okay, I'll just stop my what we call presentation. Can the content in research proposal change or altered after PD took place? Definitely yes. That is why when we have what we call the proposal defense, that's what we call proposal. You are defending your proposal. What do we expect during proposal defense is you have achieved these three chapters. Introduction, that has your research gap and objective. Your literature review, that discussing all the research gap and the methodology that you are going to use in your research methodology. And finally, the third chapter is the one that could be varied after your proposal defense. To answer your question, yes, it can change, okay, depending on how significant the change will affect your research study, okay. So don't worry, when you have your proposal defense, you have limited time to search and to complete your first 3 chapters. So knowing that you have limited time and you have the requirement from your university that you should present what we call proposal defense within certain amount of semester, so you have to plan very carefully for that. Okay, so yes, it can change. Okay, I'll just continue. Okay, next. Okay, now, before I can continue with the things that you should focus during your Viva, I would like to reflect what are the things that will be expected from you when you have your thesis ready for, be it for proposal defense or your Viva Voce. Okay, so there will be some differences on the expectation if you are a PhD student, master by research, and master mixed work. For example, the first one, if you're talking about the nature of study in general, for PhD students, it should be a fundamental research. It should contribute to the new knowledge. It has very strong technical knowledge which focus on the that specific niche area that you are researching. That will be the expectation for PhD. And for master by research, as compared to the PhD, the first one, it can also fundamental or it could be an applied research. And secondly, it should contribute to the new knowledge on new application. So I guess from the distinction between new knowledge and new application, I think new application is much easier. I think not easy in such way is easier for you to do that, but in terms of the difficulty for you to achieve that level. Okay. And definitely the third one, for master by research, it should have strong technical knowledge in the focus area. So the comparison between the PhD for the third one, okay, the PhD, it should specific on the niche area, but for master by research, only focus on the area, but not in depth to the specific area that you are researching. And as compared to the master by research, master mixed mode, okay, master mixed mode can only an applied research, okay, it can contribute to new application, and finally, medium or strong technical knowledge to niche area, okay. The expectation of literature review, okay. For your information, I get this what we call knowledge is from one professor from USM, Prof. Ashidi, and I'm sharing his slide actually. Okay, for the literature review, for the reporting other works, PhD must have. Okay, critically commenting other work must have. Able to highlight research gap must have at least 2 clear research gap. I think this one depend on the area or depend on the faculty that you are registering with. Okay, so sometimes some faculty, I think one research gap, if it is sufficient for PhD, I think it's enough. Okay, ideal number of references greater than 150. For master by research, reporting other work must have, critically commenting other works must have, able to highlight research gap must have at least 1 clear research gap. And for references is enough to have more than 100. If you have minimum 100, that will be sufficient. And for the master mixed mode, you should have the reporting other work. Okay, critically commenting other work, nice to have. Okay, for able to highlight research gap, must have at least 1 research gap. And I think this one is depending on the subject matter that you have for your research study. And for the references for master mixed mode, it should be greater than 30. So minimum 30 would be sufficient. Okay, so these are the expectations. Okay, just for you to ponder, just for you to understand, this expectation should be included or you should have during your what we call proposal defense and Viva Voce. In terms of research gap and objective, okay, design from real world issue for PhD must have, okay, design from current state of the art methods must have, number of research gap 2 to 3, number of research objective 2 to 3. For master by research, design from the real world issue must have, design from current state of the art methods must have, and for number of research gap and number of research objective is sufficient to have 1 to 2 only. And for the master mixed mode, design from real world must have, nice to have design from current state of the arts method and at least one for each, number of research gap and number of research objective. Okay, and finally, and for the contribution of the research methodology, okay, I'm not going to go through one by one, but if you can look at the contribution for each of the expectation types of contribution, you can see for PhD and master by research, okay, very high for new techniques, okay, modified technique high, not very high for PhD, only high for PhD, but very high for master, because not suitable for PhD if you are modifying your techniques. But sometimes it is, I know, and we know that it is very difficult to come up with novelty in your PhD. So sometimes modified techniques or methods is sufficient. It's just the content or the depth of your research to what we call to support your modified techniques for your PhD. Okay. What about the new concept or pipeline? High for PhD, very high for master, very high for master mixed mode. Modified concept high for PhD, high for master. Okay. Hybrid methods, medium. So it is not suitable for PhD, but you can do what we call hybrid methods for your PhD. But high for master by research. So hybrid is okay for master by research. Integrated techniques or method, low. So it is not really suitable for PhD, but okay for your master by research. Okay, but high for master mixed mode. Same techniques or method with different application, very low. So it is not acceptable for PhD. Low for master by research, also not suitable for your master by research. And for master mixed mode, it is still acceptable. Okay. So last but not least, for the analysis. Okay, what do we expect or what are the examiner panel expecting from you? The first one, comparison with current state of the art methods for PhD must have. You should have your what we call comparison with the current state of the art methods. Must have also for master by research, but nice to have for master mixed mode. For the comparison with the conventional method, must have for PhD, must have for master by research, but for master by mixed mode, it is nice to have. Okay, number of benchmark or standard dataset must have for PhD, ideally at least 4 dataset. Okay, for master by research, must have ideally at least 4. Okay, I think there is a typo here. I think this will be a typo. There will be a different distinction between the PhD and master by research and master mixed mode. Okay, I will just let you know the correct one later. For real case study, must have PhD, nice to have for master by research, and nice to have to master mixed mode. And qualitative and quantitative, it depends on your field of research, the program that you are registering for your PhD as well as for your master. So that would be the what we call expectation for your what we call thesis. Okay, for your thesis, first from your nature or scope of study, from the literature review and research and objective, contribution and research methodology, analysis result. That will be the things that you should have what we call think carefully for your thesis writing and so on. Okay. Do you have any here? One question. Okay. Do you have one question
from Asha Zakaria? Doctor, we can say that research gap refers to contribution of the study PhD or master.
Okay. Now, research gap is not actually the contribution. Okay, research gap we cannot say is the, because the research gap is where your research begins. Okay, research gap is where you formulate your problem of your research in such a way it has some what we call academic merit for your PhD or your master. And towards the PhD or master, what we call progress, you will have your what we call research objective. You will formulate your research methodology to answer your research objective. And finally, when you have analyzed your data using your research methodology, you will get your answer for your what we call for your research. Okay. And when you have that, when you have your analysis, you have your result, okay, you are going to have your formulation of your contribution, and that contribution is reflecting your research gap, okay, and that contribution reflect your research objective. So there will be actually a difference between research gap and your contribution. Research gap is your research gap where you begin your research focus and everything, and your research contribution is your contribution once you have finished your research, and it will relate to your, it's either your theory, your knowledge, your real world application, or some what we call some application in certain way. Okay, I hope I what we call I answer your question, Siti Aisha.
Second one.
Second one.
From Sue Ling, what's the difference between hybrid and integrated techniques method?
Okay, thank you for the questions. Frankly speaking, I haven't done any what we call research methodology that applied the hybrid and integrated. Hybrid method is where you have few methods. For example, for classification, for the engineering people, they have what we call the ensemble learning. So there will be few what we call method under ensemble learning, where they will hybrid them together in such a way that the way they hybrid different methods, for example, method A, method B, method C, they will combine the what we call the method in such a way they answer their research objective. Okay, more or less the same with the integrated. The integrated methods, if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, the integrated method is where you integrate the method that you choose in such a way that it will be reflecting in the certain what we call certain piece of your study. Okay, so the way you integrate that method, and it should fulfill the whole research objective that you have for your research study. Okay, so I think I'm really sorry if I cannot answer that question. So I think you should have to be very clear if you are doing hybrid or integrated. Find a reference journal that can help you out with the hybrid and the integrated method, because that method you should have answer them why and how, and for that particular method to be included in your research methodology, you should have the answer. Okay. Definitely. The slide we have shared the link. Okay, someone asked me about the link for the slide. We have shared the slide earlier, so you can scroll down the chat. Okay. Now for your what we call be ready with your knapsack. Okay, what is your knapsack? Okay, if you can see, we have two different knapsacks for your proposal defense here and your Viva here. And if you can see, your knapsack is quite different from each other. For your proposal defense, is everything raw. Okay, it's not done yet. It's just the beginning of your research study. But when you're talking about your knapsack for your Viva, everything is ready. Everything is finished. Your methodology is improved. Your methodology is finalized. You have successfully applied your research methodology to do your research analysis and everything. So if you can see, your map set for your Viva Voce are very much powerful from your map set for your proposal defense. So what are the content for your submitted proposal? Okay, usually the first one is your introduction, which contain your introduction of your research, okay, your research gap, okay, your research objective, your research limitation, and somehow your maybe your research what we call thesis organization from your for your chapter one. And you have your literature review, and your for proposal defense is kind of differ from your Viva Voce. Your literature review for your proposal defense only encounter until your methodology. What would be the simple methodology that is maybe successfully applied for your research? Okay, and what are the variables, if you have any variables included in your research, what are suggested variables from your literature that you should include in your what we call in your proposal defense in your research. And then your third is your research methodology. That will be on your proposed research methodology, not the final one. And the fourth one is your expected result. It's not a subchapter where you have the analysis of your result. It's just the expected of what are the findings of if you apply your research methodology. And the fifth one is your Gantt chart for your what we call your research what we call progress, and finally your reference. As compared to your Viva, you should have your thesis. And your submitted thesis should include, okay, more or less the same as what you have in proposal defense, chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, but chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3 are very solid. Solid in such a way, everything are well organized, everything are well discussed, everything are critically being done based on the previous literature, and how you come about your research methodology. Okay, so that will be the difference between chapter 1 to 3 for PD and your Viva Voce. And
Assalamualaikum. Hello, Doctor.
from Salam, yes.
Hello, Doctor. I'm Shariza from USM. I just wonder, you said that for the proposal defense, we have to mention the expected result. So, can you show us the example of it? How that we are going to present the expected result? Is it in the like table of value on our analysis or not?
Okay, thank you very much for the question, Shahriza from USM. I'm happy our friend from USM joining us today. Okay, thank you. I'm really sorry I didn't prepare the slide for the example of the expected result. As far as I'm concerned, being the what we call the chairperson for postgraduate study for IMK, as far as I'm concerned, you should only outline your expected result in such a way that, okay, your result will what we call answer your research objective. What are the things that you are researching? What data that you have? I think that one is included in your chapter one. So when you have your expected result, you should be able to show the way the result will be, and it could be in terms of table. It could be only in terms of a paragraph of sentences. Okay, it depends. If you have a preliminary what we call result, it can also be used to show these are your expected result. Okay, so pretty much on the expected result, because as far as I'm concerned, the USM and UNIMAP is a bit different on the way the what we call the progress is being done. Okay, as far as UNIMAP is concerned, as long as you can show us, convince us, or convince the examiner that these are the expected result that will be fulfilling the research what we call objective, I think that will be sufficient for proposal defense. Okay, I hope I answered that, Shahriza. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Doctor.
Thank you.
Sorry, Doctor.
Okay, Shahriza.
can you please explain more on the Gantt chart? Is it the time frame for completing tasks, or I need to know more on the Gantt chart. Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay, thank you very much, Shariza. Again, one more question from Shariza. The Gantt chart is the whole what we call how do I say, the whole what we call milestone that you are expecting to fulfill until your the end of your research period of study. Let's say, if for example, if you are now in semester 3, okay, as a full-time student, you have maybe, for example, maybe 4 years to complete your study. Let's say we are talking about PhD. Okay, so for the time frame that you have from your proposal defense until your time period of your study, it should be outlined in your Gantt chart. So it is good for you if you can have your milestone in such a way you can do it by the university requirement. As you know, we may have the first one, you should begin with your proposal defense. Once you have finished your proposal defense, you work with your supervisor until some period of time, you are ready for your pre-viva, okay? And then you are ready for your viva. You can do that as your milestone. But you can have what we call more detailed milestone in such a way that, okay, fine. Once you have your proposal defense, you are going to have your development of your research methodology as one milestone, or you can have your what we call analysis as one milestone, or you can have different milestone. It depends on your research need, so it will be different from one student to another. As long as you can put everything inside your Gantt chart in such a way that your examiner are convinced that you can achieve your milestone, I think it will be okay for you. Okay, thank you, Shariza. I hope I answer your questions. What was the question just now?
Factors that contribute to major correction and redefense.
Okay, factor that contribute to major correction and redefense. I'll just share you towards the end of the webinar. Okay, that slide prepared for you.
Okay, one more. Does we require to do pre-test or pilot study before defense?
Okay, I think for pilot study and pre-test, I think I'm not sure for if, as far as I'm concerned, pilot study, pre-test, for those who are doing what we call social science research, because they have survey, they will have to do the pilot test, they have to test their what we call the words. They have to test the survey item, whether the survey item is okay or not. So they have to test, so they have to do the pilot survey and everything. So as far as I'm concerned, for example, in our faculty, it depends on the need of your research. Okay, for social science, I believe it is required. But for other than social science, it depends on your research need. Okay. Next question. Can you explain the requirement for number of benchmark standard data set for qualitative research? Do you mean the number of case study or the amount of data which are required to triangulate the research funding? How much do we need for qualitative research? Thank you. Okay, if we look at the slide shared earlier, okay, for the data set, what I meant by data set, okay, what I meant by the data set is the number of data set that you have. Okay, if let's say, for example, the first data set, of course, we are talking about the research under the same what we call umbrella. We are talking about apple to apple, not apple to strawberry. So if you are talking about a data set, first data set, second data set, third data set, whatever the number of data set that you have, it should what we call similar to each other in such a way it is representable for your research analysis. So it is the number of data set. So the number of data set, okay, again, you will have to ask how many observations should you have inside. Okay, how many variables you have inside? I think that one you should have to discuss with your supervisor. I think your supervisor will know sufficient number of data set or number of observation as well as the number of variable that should be in your data set for benchmarking. Okay, I hope that answer your questions. Okay, from I think, I'm not sure what I lost the name. Okay, thank you for the question. Do you have any other question? Okay, I'll just go through because I have 31 slides. I'm afraid I cannot finish the slide. Okay, so this will be the transition from your defense proposal to your Viva. So along the way from your proposal defense to your Viva, you should develop the most important thing, research gap, objective, methodology. Strengthen that three. Okay, so that will be important for you towards your Viva Voce. Now, I think I'll just share some of the requirement for the Viva Voce and the proposal defense. Okay, for proposal defense, I think the requirement is just if you have ready with the 3 chapters, then you submitted that 3 chapters. I mean the terms that I shared with you just now. If you have ready with the proposal defense report, you can submit your what we call faculty and be ready for your proposal defense. As for Viva Voce, there will be certain requirements from your university that you should fulfill. Okay, that will be including pass the pre-Viva and submitted the thesis correction as well as the table of correction to your faculty. That will be as an evidence you have what we call finish with your correction of your pre-Viva. And I'm not sure some of the university may not require the pre-Viva session. If you don't have the pre-Viva session, I think you should have your mock Viva done with your supervisor. That will be very helpful for your preparation for Viva. And second one, achieve the publication points. As for UNIMED, if I'm not mistaken, you should have achieved 10 points for your publication. And the third one, appointment of your internal and external examiner. That should be endorsed by the Jawatan Kuasa Ijazah Tinggi. That will be the first body. Then will be endorsed by the CGS. That will be for your Center for Postgraduate Study. And finally endorsed by the Senate University Senate. So it will take a bit time for the endorsement of the external and internal examiner. So it is the what we call the role of the supervisor to make sure once the students is ready for pre-Viva, they can start with the appointment of the internal and external. And finally, make sure there will be no extending fee so that you can have your Viva Voce to be done. Okay. Now, get to know your battlefield. Okay, whether your Viva or proposal defense. Okay, at least these are the things that you should know about your battlefield. So means that your what we call your session for Viva and PD. How long is the Viva? There is no formal time limit. Okay, a Viva can last between 1 to 2 or even more hours. Even sometimes it consumes the morning session and afternoon session depending on your thesis. Sometimes if your thesis is good enough, it will require less time for the discussion between the panel and the what we call channel. Student presentation should be within 20 to 25 minutes. Be it you have 100 slides or 10 slides, your allocation of time are still the same. Okay, you have only 20 minutes. Just consume 20 minutes of the given time precisely to present everything. Okay, so that would be a big question mark of how you can present your slide presentation in such a way it present the whole thesis that you have. Okay, who will examining you? Okay, normally 2 examiners that will be consisting external and internal examiner. Okay, that will be appointed earlier by the university. And then university staff, okay, that would be a university staff, depending if you are a student, not a staff of that particular university, you may have both internal examiner. If you are a staff, you will have both external examiner, depending who you are as a student. And of course, your supervisor will be present during examination, but it's not allowed to ask any question or impact the outcome of the proposal defense or the Viva Voce. What is the purpose of a Viva? So you should have to understand why in the first place you have the proposal defense session and the Viva session. Okay, as what we have mentioned earlier, okay, the reason why you have the Viva, okay, the main reason why you have the Viva, okay, as well as applied to the proposal defense, we want to make sure that did you do the work yourself? That is the main question. Because we know when you present your work, we know whether you are the one that doing your research or it could be somebody else doing it for you. Okay, second one, have you done the reading? Means that it reflecting your literature review. So if you haven't done your reading properly, means that somehow your research methodology is what we call, it has some what we call missing inside your research methodology, because you have missed some of the things that could be very important or could be very significant to your research methodology. So means that your literature review should be very intense. In such a way, you have covered all the reading materials that relate to your topic. Second, the third one, do you have a good knowledge of the field? Now, you are, for example, if you are doing a research on the classification, okay, so the examiner are going to see how good your knowledge towards the classification field that you are investigating, okay, and do you write the thesis yourself? This is another thing that you should have understood, okay. Normally, I think this one should be done by the student. And somehow we know there are those people who let somebody else do the writing for them. So it's okay lah. Okay, but as long as you do it yourself, I think that you should be okay. Okay, the fifth, can you do the research independently? Means that, okay, without your supervisor, can you do the research? That will be the first thing. Or without anybody else, can you do the research? That shows how you master the knowledge of that particular field that you are researching. Okay, so again, along the process of doing your PhD or master, try very hard to master every single thing of the process. Can you teach your subject? This is maybe an extra. If you have that, that would be good. So can you teach your subject? Somehow it reflects. Have you presented somewhere else? Maybe in conference? Okay, if yes, I think that would be okay, sufficient for you. Have you contributed to the knowledge? Okay, that will be reflecting your chapter 5. Okay, so if yes, it should be okay. Okay, did you learn anything? Okay, somehow we wish at the end of the day, at the end of your research progress, you have achieved some level of what we call learning. Okay, so where you have learned, where you have understood better your research area better than your supervisor. Okay, and finally, when will I know the outcome? Sorry for the typo. Okay, after the Viva has ended, your examiner will ask you to leave the room to allow the examiners and chairman to make decision. So this is where you and your supervisor will be asked to leave the room, and some the discussion will lead to the examiner and the chairman. So this is where they will do the assessment based on your Viva Voce, how well you are doing in your Viva, and that reflect your final outcome, whether you pass with minor, pass with major, reviva, and so on and so forth. Okay, I will just touch that towards the end of the webinar. How long Okay, varies depending on the condition of the student thesis. Sometimes, if the student thesis is too bad, they will require short time to ask you back to the room. If it's too bad, the student's thesis is too bad in such a way the research methodology is not presentable, the literature review is insufficient, okay, they will require shorter time to make decision. Okay, longer time maybe require if the examiner and the chairman cannot find somewhere in your presentation or in your thesis the things that can help you out, whether you can be given with the pass with minor, pass with major, pass with revival, and so on. Okay, so it depends much on your thesis as well as your viva voce. Okay, I hope there is no question. There is a question. For the comparison with conventional method, it is necessary to do the comparison between conventional control group and experimental group, especially during this pandemic. For example, just do for the experimental design. Okay, I think there is a question from Siti Najiha Jamal. Thank you very much for the question, Siti Najiha. I think for if you have the control group, okay, if you have to compare with the conventional method, like Siti Nadia is talking about COVID-19 pandemic. If let's say you are talking about COVID-19 pandemic, if it is more related to the what we call medical setting, I think it require detailed discussion with your supervisor how it should be done. Okay, as far as the requirement for the data, okay, the comparison between your data with the conventional method, okay, I think it will depend. It goes back to the requirement of your research objective. Okay, somehow I'm really sorry I cannot what we call truly answer this question because I haven't done any what we call this particular setting, research setting. Okay, as far as I'm concerned, whatever setting for the research analysis, it should support your research objective in such a way using your research methodology, you can prove that your research methodology is applicable. Okay, so for that particular research methodology is to be applicable, you have to compare your research analysis with your method with the conventional method, if any, okay, and prove that you have the evidence of what we call you have improved somehow in the analysis. If you have improved in what way, how it improved your what we call research analysis as compared to your conventional setting. Okay, so I hope I do what we call answer your question, Siti Najiha. Okay, the next thing about get to know your battlefield is to know who are your audiences. Okay, in your viva room or in your proposal defense rooms, there will be your supervisor, there will be your external examiner and internal examiner, as well as your independent chair, that will be your chairman, and more or less maybe the committee. Okay, for the proposal defense setting, of course, there will be no internal external examiner, but the number of examiner, usually they will set odd number of examiner. Usually there will be 3 examiners in the room. Why? Because if we wish to have the majority vote, okay, if the majority vote is to pass the student for proposal defense, there will be no problem to what we call to have the majority vote. If let's say one examiner award you to do the redefend proposal, so if 1/2, so we will go for 2 what we call voting. So that's why for proposal defense, the number of examiner will be odd number. Okay, but for your Viva, which is more critical, your supervisor is the one that supervise you. Okay, and usually she or he has no speaking role in the oral examination. So most of the time they will just keep quiet unless the chairman asks the supervisor to help the student. Then only the supervisor can start speaking. For the external examiner, okay, usually it refers to a member of academic staff from another university or institution whom are the expert in the student research area and methodology. So your external examiner is the one chosen endorsed by the university senate, and we acknowledge their expertise in the research area. So most of the time we do have respect to this particular external examiner in such a way, whatever she or he propose, we will take note of that. Okay. Internal examiner refers to a member of academic staff in the candidate department or faculty, often but not always knowledgeable or with some expertise in the area of the student research or in a related area. May also conduct progress review during the doctorate or master. So those the internal examiner are the one who have what we call examine you before. Okay, but not necessarily. Okay.
Right. Any more?
Is there anything? Okay. The independent chair, okay, refers to a neutral academic who was not involved in the study. Okay, the neutral academic should have had no previous contact with the research and thesis being examined, responsible for ensuring that the regulation and procedures are followed. So these are the role of the independent chair or chairman. And the rest of the committee depends on the university setting. Okay, now when you enter your what we call a room of your proposal defense and your Viva Voce, you should have known their role in such a way that whenever they voice out something, remember that their role is to remind you of what. Okay, so that it would be good for you to take note whatever what we call comment or recommendation given to you while you have your during your Viva Voce, or maybe towards the end of your Viva Voce or your proposal defense. Okay. As I mentioned earlier, more or less as what I have what we call shared just now, the role of your supervisor. Okay, you can read on your own. Now, I would like to highlight the external examiner and the internal examiner. The thesis is assessed by standard appropriate for the research degree. So if you are a PhD or a master degree, so the external examiner and the internal examiner will look through according to the awarded degree. Okay. The student in his or her Viva Voce is assessed by standard appropriate for their PhD degree. So again, more or less the same as the first one. Judge whether the work is of an appropriate amount of standard. Check that it is presented and discussed appropriately in the thesis. Reassure themselves that the thesis is the student's own work and the student can defend it appropriately. Okay, so these are the things that they will look through during your Viva Voce, as well as your, if let's say you have your PD. So means that make sure all this is in your what we call presentation. Some amount of these particular things is shown in your thesis as well as in your presentation. Okay, and finally the independent chair or the chairman. Okay, so the role of the chairman will ensure the examiner are aware of and adhere to the institution regulation and procedure. The assessment is rigorous, fair, reliable, and consistent. Somehow in the Viva Voce, okay, or during the proposal defense, the examiner maybe go too far from what is expected to be evaluated. So this is where the chairman should play their role. Okay, the examiner questioning is appropriate. So if let's say some of the question is inappropriate, so the chairman will remind the examiner would be the best or the correct way or the correct question to be asked to the student. The candidate has an opportunity to defend the thesis. Again, somehow there will be during the Viva, okay, or during the proposal, student get too defensive. Okay, means that when the examiner, comment, students cannot accept, okay, what the examiner is proposing or commenting. So this is where the chairman again, will play his or her role to give the opportunity for the student to defend. If you are too defensive, again, the chairman will remind you. Okay? And finally, the examiner's report are completed in line with the regulation for the final use for students. Okay? Now, what is your role? So now this is the most important part for you. Again, this is your PhD, this is your master, and it reflects you as a whole from the beginning towards the end. Okay. Now your role, okay, to what we call to answer the topic, the title of what we call our webinar, how to survive in Viva and proposal defense. Now this is your role. So for proposal defense, wherever is appropriate, just apply that. So prior to Viva, okay, even though you have your pre-Viva session, what we call set up for you by the faculty member, I do advise to have your mock Viva with your supervisor. Okay, and ask maybe some of your supervisor's friends to evaluate you during your mock Viva. Okay, so during your mock Viva, you can ask the audience during the mock Viva how you perform during your mock Viva. How do you deliver your research gap? How do you explain the research objective? Is the literature review support your research gap and your research methodology and so on and so forth? So that is where the importance of mock Viva is being done within you and your supervisor. Now, second, master your thesis content. Whatever slide you have to represent your thesis, okay, master them. And especially your thesis. I would say from your thesis content, okay, normally you would have chapter 1, chapter 2 for literature review, chapter 3 for research methodology, chapter 4 for result and discussion, and chapter 5 for conclusion and future work. Okay, the most important part is your research methodology. Because why? Research methodology is genuinely from your work. Okay, it is proposed from you. It is not available anywhere else except in your thesis. Okay, that's why research methodology is something that most examiner will look first. How good is your research methodology? How complete is your research methodology? Okay, if it is not good, means that you have what we call unorganized research methodology, then easily your examiner will pinpoint that you have problem for your Viva. Okay, now after research methodology, of course, your research methodology is designed to answer your research objective, which come from your research gap. So goes backward. What is your research objective? Understand why you are trying to achieve the research objective. Why you design that research objective? What you want to achieve from your research objective, and align that with your research gap. How your research gap is something that has the what we call academic merit for your research or for your degree. Okay, so it should be highlighted in your Viva. Okay, the third one, prepare your presentation slide earlier. Now, my what we call suggestion is that if you have got your Viva Voce what we call date, okay, for example, today you got your Viva Voce date, okay, that would be somewhere at the end of January 2020. Don't wait until you have only 2 weeks to prepare your slide. Do it now. Because what? The most difficult part in creating your slide is to transform your thesis to your slide. Remember, your Viva is how you present verbally your thesis that you have written down earlier. You consume maybe 3 years, 4 years to write everything one by one. Okay. Now, how can you transform that? Those what we call problem statement, 3 pages of research gap, 1 page of your research objective, 20 pages of your research methodology. How would you transform them into your slide? That is very, very hard for me. Okay, that's why my advice, prepare your slide earlier, as early as possible. Okay, you can use your proposal defense slide, or you can use your pre-Viva slide to help you out your Viva. Okay, know your main journal reference. Some examiner will ask you, can you tell me what are your main reference? What are your main, what will be your key person for your reference for your PhD or master? So please identify whose are the person that you refer a lot for your research methodology or for your research gap, okay, and so on and so forth. But find your main journal reference for your we call research, okay, in case your examiner asks you that. Now, during your Viva, okay, this is the moment where you should what we call show everything in such a way that everything has been done in order, okay, and it will be presented in order, and it will be presented in such a way that examiner, chairman, okay, and the rest of the member can easily understand. Whoever they are, maybe they are not the one that do your research. If they can easily understand your presentation, I think you don't have to be worried. Okay, you are in a good condition. Okay, so during your Viva, bring all the research materials that will include your thesis, your hard copy of your thesis, your soft copy of your thesis, your short notes. If you wish to have your short notes to help you out do your presentation, bring them. Your blank paper and your pen for you to jot down all the questions, all the comments, all the what we call recommendation from the members of the floor, the slide presentation, the soft copy and hard copy. Okay, if you need your pointer, please bring your pointer, the best pointer that you have had with you, and if necessary, do have your software and hard drive with you during your Viva. Okay, why? There was an incident, okay? There was an incident whereby a student is presenting his Viva, okay? And we figure out that the research methodology is questionable, okay? Means that the research methodology are not in order. The research methodology cannot support the research analysis that he has done or she has done. This is where the examiner will maybe ask you, can you show me how you do this particular algorithm? Can you show us this, what we call phase of your algorithm is executed? So this is where you should have your, what we call software that you use for your analysis with you during your Viva, in case you are required to show that. Okay. Why hard drive? Sometimes your soft copy you have put in the right folder where you can easily access, but somehow when you turn on your computer, you forget everything. Okay, that's how you will have your hard drive, and you can see clearly where you store your what we call the soft copy of your thesis, maybe and the slides, maybe and the things, or maybe the software itself. Okay. Self-condition, okay? Always keep calm. No matter how nervous you are, try to keep calm. I know at the beginning it will be very hard for you, but try to keep calm in somehow or you try to do that. Okay, always have your eye contact with your examiner, with your supervisor, with your chairman. Okay, wear the right costume. Okay, if you require to have your necktie, wear them. Okay, and but last but not least is well mannered. Well mannered. What I meant by well mannered is the way you what we call address your examiner, the way you address your chairman when they ask you the questions, when you don't know how to answer the question, when you don't agree with their comment, when you don't agree with their recommendation. So try to find such what would be the best way to what we call to address that particular topic. And for your presentation, goes back to your straight storytelling just now. Okay, storytelling your thesis easily understood and memorable, and if possible by having 18 presentation slides. Okay, so try to what we call motivate by a storytelling way on how you can do your Viva Voce. I know you have a lot to present. Okay, for your literature review, I don't think you can have one slide to present that. Okay. Okay. Is there any question? Okay, no question. Okay. So imagine, okay, imagine that you are the one that need to storytelling your thesis. Okay. So as I said prior to your Viva, organize them in such way you know what to pinpoint during your Viva Voce. Okay. Okay. So pinpoint that into your 18 slide presentation only, not more than that. Okay. And finally, take note or maybe record the session. Okay. If possible, ask the chairman what we call permission to record the what we call the Viva using your handphone so that you won't lose any comment or recommendation during your Viva Voce. Okay, so that would be during your Viva. So for your post Viva, that would be after your Viva. It is more or less equally important during the Viva. Okay, when you leave your Viva room, okay, leave your Viva room with knowing exactly what correction are needed. Okay, you know that the chairman will note down whatever the comment. Okay, note down. Chairman will note down. We know that examiner will also write down their comments in the form provided by the university earlier. When they receive the thesis to evaluate, they will receive the form. They will fill in the form all the comments, all the what we call the corrections that they will have towards your thesis recorded during your Viva. Your examiner might say something else, something what we call something that he or she may not jot down in the what we call form. This is where your recording is very important, and this is where hopefully your supervisor will help you out, note down all the things that required for you. So leave the Viva room with knowing exactly what corrections are needed. Okay. Okay. There are some questions. I think I'll just address the question towards the end because I think I would finish all the slide because it's already more than 2 hours, more than 1 hour, almost 2 hours. It's okay. Okay. Now, second, if necessary, ask the examiner to specify the scale or scope of revision. So during the Viva session, okay, if you don't really understand the context or the content of the question or the recommendation from your examiner, politely ask them. Okay, ask them to what we call explain further, or ask them to what extent should I extend my correction. Okay, so that it will be clearer for you. Okay, third one, the more you define revision tasks before the examination end,
the less you will have to think about them and easier it will be to do them later. So when you leave your examination room, you know everything that precisely what you need to do, everything will be easier for you because we have what we call table of correction that help you out to what we call to do all the correction, whatever the correction made by the examiner will be included in your table of correction that will be submitted to the university. It will be easier for you to do that if you have finalized them before you enter. You go out from the examination room. Okay. And finally, don't forget to thank your examiner, your chairman, your supervisor, your dean, your faculty admin, and all your supporters. Okay, now I wish to what we call to go through these key points of for your Viva and proposal defense. I'll just go through it what we call shortly. Okay, what you should have for your Viva proposal defense is the green circle. Okay, you should have your research gap where you have your research objective formulated from your research gap. Then from your research objective, you need to answer. You need to find out. You need to what we call do the research to what we call using your research methodology. Okay, to answer your research objective. And in order for you to do that, you have to have your literature review. That's why your literature review came after that. And in fact, before that actually. And from your literature review, once you have what we call an extensive what we call search for your research area, you will formulate your research methodology. Your research methodology should what we call answer your research objective. Okay, so that will be your proposal defense. As of for Viva, so you will have your research analysis and result right after your research methodology. This is where your research methodology in the fourth cycle, your research methodology will be proven acceptable or not. Okay, if your analysis cannot be done, means that something is wrong with your research methodology. If everything is okay, research methodology is okay, research analysis and result are coherent with your research objective, then start writing your chapter 5. That is your conclusion and future work. Your conclusion should reflect your research objective. I think the easiest one is by answering your writing your conclusion by addressing the research objective. I think that would be easier for you to what we call write your thesis. Okay. Now this is I think someone asked me before about the how do we know that whether I will pass without correction, pass with minor correction, and so on. So this is a result from the proposal defense. Okay, this is a form of result from a university. Okay, so if as you can see from the slide, okay, there will be different ranking will be given to this particular student. The first ranking, 2A ranking, 2B ranking, and the third ranking. And for this particular ranking, I'll summarize that into the green, what we call notes there. Okay, you may have passed without correction, means that your proposal is good enough. Your research gap is clear, your objective is aligned with your research methodology, and is sufficient for your degree program. And then your literature review is sufficient for your research methodology as well as your what we call method, the program, the problem itself, and finally your proposed research methodology is acceptable for your research title. So most of the time you can pass without correction. But if you have, okay, is this the second, third, fourth, and the fifth, what we call outline, something that I based on my experience and my experience joining other webinars regarding this. Okay, pass with minor correction is awarded if there is something that you miss out. Okay, but does not require you to resubmit. Okay, so that will be reflecting number 1 and number 2. Your research gap and your literature review. But pass with major correction Okay, means that you may have problem either with number one, research gap, research objective, and research methodology, or literature review with research methodology. Okay, so this is where you have to look at your proposal again. And pass with major correction, and you are required to redefine your proposal means that you have a weak proposal. Okay, it's very hard for the what we call the examiner to find out where your research gap, your objective, your research methodology, and so on and so forth. I'm really sorry. I think I was too consuming your too much time. Okay, don't worry. For those who share your what we call your email address, I will share with you the recording of this particular talk. Okay, later. And finally, rejected proposal. If your proposal is very weak, the examiner will finally will reject your proposal. But somehow, I think, as far as I'm concerned, the worst I have encountered is number 4 only. Okay. And last but not least, okay, for your Viva verdict, this is the one that I think I should highlight. Okay. This is one example for the Viva verdict is from one of the university in Malaysia. Okay, if you can see, this particular student will has been awarded with the PhD degree subject to minor changes or correction to the thesis as listed in the final examiner's report. Okay, so from this particular what we call outline of the Viva verdict, okay, I simplified out into 6. Okay, it's either you pass the Viva, you pass the minor correction, pass with minor correction, pass with major correction, and require examiner verification. Usually, it's either the what we call the internal or external examiner verification. If the problem is too much on the methodology, somehow it require the external examiner verification. Okay, and you have to resubmit your thesis, and you have to do your reviva. And finally, the second one is not satisfactory. You will be awarded lower degree, and finally fail, not eligible for awarded degree, and not allowed to resubmit the thesis. Okay, so this could be the Viva verdict that you may have. So in order for you to at least to get, or like this particular student, pass with minor correction, please make sure, as I outlined in the what we call in the small circle down here, okay, make sure your research gap is clear. It accounts some what we call academic merit, okay, and it works to be researching, and there will be some research objective that can be outlined from that particular research gap. And then using your literature review, you finalize everything out in such a way that you need to come up with your research methodology. That would be your own what we call formulated research methodology based on the research gap that you have defined earlier. Okay, and it support your research analysis and result. I think you will easily be awarded with number 2. Okay, if somehow you have problem with research methodology, your research methodology is unclear, your algorithm somehow has some of the ambiguity, the examiner is questioning on the algorithm that you are building. Okay, so there will be problem with your verdict. So most probably you will be awarded number 3. Okay, so make sure everything is in order. Okay, as I outlined previously, and as I mentioned in the circle down there, the whole what we call 5 circles that contain the research gap, literature, methodology, analysis, and conclusion should be in order, should be complement each other, and should be clear to everyone who read your thesis. That would be good for you. I tried my very best to finish everything. Okay. There will be some do and don'ts you can see on your own. Okay. There will be top 10 PhD Viva hints that will be shared by some of the PhDblog.com. Okay. And for the online Viva, the things that I would like you to prepare is, since the pandemic is not over yet, okay, the prior Viva, everything is for the number one, everything is what we have discussed before. Before the Viva, I mean just before the Viva, please make sure that you have found a station where your internet connection is best to support your long hours of discussion. Okay, test your computer equipment, whether they are well functioned, the video, the speaker, the microphone, everything. Try them beforehand. Okay, so if you still have problems, let your chairman know about that, or she or he will, hold the discussion or the Viva or the proposal defense. But for during the Viva, okay, please make sure follow all the instruction and give ample time for smooth conversation, because we are doing it online. Okay, the panel will be sitting inside the room. You are somewhere else, okay, maybe in a remote area. So make sure you have what we call ready for that particular assessment. Usually, your university will have some guidelines for the instruction for the online Viva Voce. So please follow them. And finally, make sure all the required forms are available for you to access, because you are doing it online. So everything will be online as well as the form. So make sure you can access the form. Okay. And last but not least, something I think I need to stop sharing, because someone instructed me just now. Okay, I just share again the last few slides that I have. I'm really sorry for taking much of your time. Okay. Now, I just wanted to share some of my experience. Okay. If you have your hard time, okay, if you are now crying, I feel like I'm crying, because I have gone through the what we call the hardest obstacle in pursuing my PhD. Okay. If you are having a hard time, don't worry. Just keep working with your thesis. Don't worry. You have your supervisor. You have your friend. Go to your supervisor. Go to your friends. Share your problem. You know what? When you share your problem, your solution is not given by your friend. Your solution is not given by your supervisor. Believe me, my husband is a lecturer. I am a lecturer. I spent my 7 years doing my PhD. My third year is where my proposal defense is being held. Imagine I defended my proposal in my third year. I was frustrating actually, but it's okay. It's my train. My train could be different from my friends. It's okay. Just work out. Okay. So if you have problems, go somewhere, go to someone that can listen to you. That's the only thing that you can do. Okay. Then your answer that you are looking for will reveal afterwards. Okay. Your answer is maybe you yourself will find it on your own. Okay. So if you have any problem, it's okay. Just go ahead. Find someone that can help you. Okay. And if that someone require you to go to someone else, then do it. Okay. Go someone else that can help you out with the problem. And I believe somehow or other you will come to your end. Okay, you will come to your what we call what we call point where you understand. When I have my 5th year of my PhD progress, I don't even understand the whole of my thesis, but I'm still writing them. But when I do my analysis, my research analysis, my understanding begin, come to me, okay? Come to me one by one. Oh, it's actually this. Oh, the one that I wonder so long is this. Oh, this is the answer for the things that I was worried about. Oh, this is the things that I'm looking for. One by one will be coming to you, and it is important for you to put them in order so that it will help you in your Viva later on. Okay, so thank you very much for your time. I'm just sharing this so that everyone will have your experience. For me, last time I don't have this particular sharing. Okay, so if you have this particular kind of sharing, I hope you can gain something. You can use that for your PhD or for your master, and I hope everything will be easy for you. Okay. And last but not least, I would like to share some of the opportunity vacancies for the research graduate assistant available in our department. I have to stop sharing again. Okay, if you have any friends who still looking for what we call an opportunity to further their study, to what we call to have your PhD, you can go to this line. So these are my member of faculties. They are looking for postgraduate research assistant. So if you have any friends who are looking for vacancies, you can ask them. So you can see the topic is included inside the slide. So you can go one by one. And if you have further questions, you can go to this particular person because she is in charge of the postgraduate under the Faculty of Applied and Human Sciences and IMK. And for your information, we are offering few what we call research field for master and PhD. Okay, and these are for the master by research, and these are for the master next month. Okay, so with that, I think I will end my presentation. But before that, my next sharing will be how to turn your more than 200-page thesis to 18-page slide presentation. Okay, if you are interested, okay, email me. I will share with you the link, and I will just let you know when and where the webinar will be held. Thank you very much for your time. I wish you all the best and wish you the best PhD and master what we call experience. And I will just go to the what we call question that are being shared by your friend. Okay, so I'll just stop sharing. I'll just go to the what we call. I think my friend told me there is no question. Okay, I'm very relieved. Okay, just one question. What's the question? Okay.
Doctor,
Okay. Yes.
I'm sorry, Doctor, for interrupt you at the last session.
Okay, it's okay.
Okay, I'm Nurul from UAM, Doctor.
Okay.
So actually, we as a students right now we know about the expected question during Viva or ED session. So
Okay.
how about the unexpected session? Maybe Doctor can share with us because before this, Doctor have the experience in this. Thank you, Doctor.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. Okay. Thank you very much, Nurul Shahida. I would like to share with you one of my reference for this particular webinar. I'm going to share with you the if you can find the link, it will be okay. My reference is How to Survive Your Viva. In this particular book, all the what we call the specific question as well as the unexpected question is addressed here. They will teach you on how to what we call answer your examiner's questions. Okay. But to verbally answer your question, Nurul Shahida, I think there would be no unexpected questions. as far as I'm concerned, okay, examiner are not going to examine something that is beyond your research area. Okay, examiner as well as your chairman, those people are the ones that are trying to help you out to uphold or to improve your thesis in such a way that your thesis is much better when you do your correction. Okay, so I think for the unexpected question is something maybe that you may be unexpected to be asked, I think. Okay, because whatever things that will be asked is something that will relate to your research gap, relate to your literature review, and largely relate to your research methodology. Because I think the research methodology is the main and the biggest what we call chapter that will be addressed in focus during your Viva. So when your examiner read your thesis, if he or she find out that your research methodology is okay, is clear, okay, is not much ambiguity inside it, okay, so it will be easier for them. And in fact, the question that will be asked during your Viva is the question that they need your clarification only. Okay, if you do it, if you do your research on your own, you do the literature review on your own, you develop your research methodology with the help of your supervisor. I think somehow you can you can answer, or you can answer your examiner's question, those what you so call the unexpected question. As long as you do it on your own, that will be okay. In fact, when you answer and you cannot deliver in such a way that the examiner expected you to deliver that way, they will try to help you out. They will try to simplify it for you, and they will try to make it clearer so that you are clearer. You are clear, and they are clear with your explanation. Okay.
Alright, Doctor. Thank you so much, Doctor, for the
Okay.
answer.
Thank you. Anything else? Do we need to ask permission prior to recording? Yes. Yes. If your examiners, your chairman or if your examiner says no, it's okay. Follow whatever examiners instructed you. Okay. If they say no need, then no need for you to do that. If okay, first you may what we call approach the chairman. Ask the chairman. Don't ask in front of the examiner. Go personally to the chairman. Ask your chairman, okay, doctor, excuse me, prof, is it possible for me to record my Viva Voce using my handphone? Okay. The chairman will ask the examiner. Usually, if it is okay, then you are lucky enough you can record everything. But somehow, or if the examiner say no, just follow whatever the examiner says. Okay, that will be for your own good. If that's so, make sure as best as possible, note down the important recommendation, comments, and correction appointed by the examiner. Okay. Okay. If examiners ask us why should you are awarded a degree, what should the student answer it? Okay. Now, when you have come to your Viva Voce, remember that you have gone through your proposal defense, you have gone through your pre-Viva, okay? There are certain amount of what we call acknowledgement by the faculty member to your research work, okay? And if you are not okay for your Viva, during your pre-Viva, the examiner will point out every single thing that require you for correction. Okay, I know there are some of the in some condition whereby the student is trying to chasing the time. They have more time, no time more to stay at the university. So he or she, the student, require the Viva earlier.
Okay, and the supervisor, okay, help the student to do that. If, let's say, you have been approved during your pre-viva, that would be okay. If your pre-viva require you to correct your thesis as what we call expected by the examiner, please do so. Because any comments, any correction is important for your viva Voce. If you don't address that comment or correction, I'm afraid you will have problem for your viva Voce. There was a situation where this particular what I have mentioned just now, you proceed to the viva. What happened is that the student was awarded with the pass with major and need to resubmit and need to reviva the thesis. So this is what happened. Okay, so make sure everything is in order, so it will be okay for you. Okay. I hope I what we call answer your question. Okay, that's the end of our webinar. Thank you very much, everyone. I'm really happy because the attendance just now reached, I think, more than 220. I hope I have what we call shared the most valuable points that beneficial for your PhD and master. All the best, and for those who are going to have your Viva soon, I wish you all the best, and may you have your Viva pass, okay, if possible without correction. Okay, thank you very much.